With chapter 1056 complete, we see that the Straw Hats are about to leave Wano, and it's safe to assume that Wano is officially done. With that being said, we can finally answer the question, was Wano a disappointment? As much as it pains me to say this, yes, Wano was a huge, astronomical disappointment. I have not been this disappointed with an arc in anime/manga since Kishimoto fumbled the final arc of Naruto. Now, I've always held the view that One Piece can have bad arcs. My philosophy was the lowest rating a One Piece arc could have is a 5 out of 10 because One Piece was such a well-written and well-designed show to me that the lowest it could be is a mid arc. I've never seen One Piece have a bad arc the entire time I've been following it. Now I'll say this, Wano is definitely great on the curve for a multitude of reasons. First of all, it's the combination of 4 different arcs. We had Punk Hazard, we had Dressrosa, we had Zoe, and we had Whole Cake. 4 setup arcs for this one arc. Another reason, it was an actual war. It's the first time since Marineford we've had an actual quote-unquote war. So this is like, was supposed to, in my opinion, this was supposed to be kind of like Marineford Part 2 for the time skip. Where, yeah, we had that pre-time skip war, but now we have a war where everyone's powered up and it's a war against a Yonko, the New World. The other reason why it's great on the curve is because this is our strongest individual the Straw Hats themselves have faced. It's a Yonko. We've been getting hype about the Yonko from pre-time skip, and it's been said and hinted at that this was possibly the strongest Yonko. So there were a lot of stakes riding on this arc, which is why, for me, I had much higher expectations for this arc, and I am grading it harsher than I would a normal arc. Now, I want to start off by saying there's a lot in this arc that I really liked. I've seen people say Wano has some of the highest highs in the series and some of the lowest lows, and I completely agree with that. It does have some of the highest highs, like Odin flashback. You had Roger versus Whitebeard. You've had Luffy advanced conquerors moments. You had Zoro's advanced conquerors moments. You've had cool scenes on the rooftops. Like, some of the highs are definitely the highest highs of the series, but the lows are just so bad. Oh my gosh. Firstly, there were no significant deaths. And I know people are going to be like, oh, but big news, Izo and Ashura Doji died. Their deaths literally had zero impact or significance because not a soul thought that they were dead during their quote-unquote death scenes. Because Oda is the king of fake out deaths and never king off characters, nobody thought they died in the moment, so their deaths weren't impactful, as we had like 50 fake out deaths this arc alone. When you have so many fake outs, it ruins the tension of the arc and it lowers the stakes. Now, any deaths we do get aren't going to be impactful because nobody is going to believe that that person is actually dead. Kanjuro had like 50 lives. He should have just died to Kiku, and that would have been the most fitting death. Kinemon should have just died to Kaido's advanced conqueror's attack, and his reasoning for living was BS, like Law didn't cut him properly or some BS like that. That was stupid. It would have been a beautiful death for Kinemon while also adding tension to the arc, and it would have made Kaido feel like an actual threat. Kiku should have died as well, and oh my god, Orochi should have either just died to Kaido or when the scabbards cut him up. There was no reason to draw his death out throughout the entire arc. It was pointless, it was drawn out, it was worthless. Another issue I had was stuff being left out of the story and revealed in data books. For example, King's Bounty. Are you kidding me? We got the Yonko first commander, his vice captain, his right hand. His bounty reveal was in a data book. All you had to do was do literally the exact same thing you did with Queen and just show his bounty on his introduction. We also didn't get Marco's bounty on in the story. We had to wait for a data book to get that. You could have literally just shown his bounty when he first came to Wano. We also had to wait to get the Flying Sixes bounty in the data books, and you could have just shown that at their introduction. There were so many instances where you could have given these people's bounties, and bounties are one of the most important aspects of One Piece. It shows the pirates' perceived threat level. It gives us an indication of their strength, and we as fans like to theorize about it, and it gets us hyped, and it gives us a peek at the character's strength. Revealing that in a data book is such a waste, especially a right hand of a Yonko. Really? We got Katakuri, we got Smoothie, we got Cracker, we got Queen, we got Jax, but we didn't get King. It's just stupid, silly stuff like that you just left out of the story. Another issue I had this arc was the portrayal of Kaido. Kaido literally ended his arc with basically 0 bodies. By having people like Kinemon and Orochi survive Kaido's attack, it makes him look incompetent. It ruins his threat level. It decreases the stakes of the arc. It decreases the tension of the arc. And for someone that's supposed to be a Yonko and supposed to be menacing, you're telling me he has no bodies during the arc of a war? Really? If you're not going to have Kaido kill anyone, don't put him in a situation where he's supposed to have the opportunity to kill someone, because it's only going to ruin his character. Another issue I had with Kaido was the backstory. Kaido literally had like 2 panels to his backstory, and one of those panels came from a fight Zoro had versus King. It wasn't even his backstory. So Kaido did not feel fleshed out. Now, he had some nice quotables during the fight, like death is what completes a man and all that good stuff, but it amounts to nothing because he ended up being a joke. He didn't kill nobody. We didn't have any fleshed out backstory. We don't really know his motives. We don't really know what drives him. We don't really know what shaped him and made him into what he is. I seen people saying that, oh, we're going to find that out later when we get the full Rock Slash. Like, really? You have faith in Oda after the fumble of this arc that he is going to explain that? Are you serious? Did you see what happened to Zoro this arc? Did you see what happened to all the support characters this arc? Did you see what happened to Big Mom this arc? You think Oda is going to flesh out and expand upon a character not named Luffy? Stop it. So that should have been explained. We should have gotten more into Kaido, like how we got into Dofi and we understood his philosophy and what made him to who he was. We did not get that with Kaido. All we know is, hey, he was captured by Marines when he was young. Like, what? I also felt that his defeat was very underwhelming and lackluster. Now, every villain is basically Luffy gets Big Punch and takes him out. I don't like that there wasn't anything special for a Yonko. For our first Yonko fight for the quote-unquote strongest creature in the series, I felt that they would be more impactful, more significant, rather than Kaido clashes, Luffy clashes, and Luffy punch, bigger punch wins. I wanted Kaido to die. That's just me. It didn't really matter to me who killed him, but you don't go into a Yonko's territory, rage war on them, and then you just knock him out and leave. And we don't even know if Kaido, like, okay, and that's another issue I had with Kaido's defeat. It was very inconclusive. It basically was him falling into lava. And that was Oda's way of basically riding himself out of a corner so that he doesn't have to say whether Kaido lives, whether Kaido dies, and it can remain inconclusive. Because we know Oda doesn't want to kill off any characters. So we know he didn't want to kill off Kaido. But the problem is that now it's inconclusive and it's silly. Like, what, he fell in lava? Is he alive? Is he dead? Like, it's Oda, so we know Kaido's not dead. But you catch the drift. It was his way of being inconclusive and just leaving it for interpretation. I don't like that. I wanted a conclusive ending. This is what happened to the Yonko. The same problem I had with Kaido, it's the same thing with Big Mom. I felt that Big Mom's arc was not handled right. It was handled right in Whole Cake, but when she came to Wano, Kid and Law's fight felt very quick. It felt like we got like one dedicated chapter to the fight and she got taken down. I felt that Big Mom was disrespected the entirety of One Piece. She was a huge guy character. She got disrespected by Frankie, Brooke. Everyone just took their turns disrespecting her. She was a gag character. I felt that she deserved more because at the end of the day, she is a Yonko just like Kaido. So I felt that her fight with Kid and Law should have been more fleshed out. And I also felt that her defeat shouldn't have just been the same as Kaido, where it inconclusive, it falls into the lava. I would have liked a more fleshed out fight. I would have liked a more significant fight. I just felt like her arc wasn't handled or concluded significantly. It felt like she was a throwaway character. Another issue I had with the arc was Gear 5. Now, me personally, I don't love or hate the design of Gear 5. I'm whatever with it. It's fine, it's decent, it's okay. But I don't like the goofy nature of it. With an arc as devoid of stakes and tension as Wano was up until that point, this final fight was the last chance to actually have a, oh, sugar honey iced tea moment. This is getting real. What's going to happen? And instead we got Looney Tunes. Now I know One Piece is a gag manga. It's a lot of jokes. That's what makes One Piece One Piece. But there's a time and a place for it. We can have gags when we're fighting Buggy. We can have gags when we're doing the Davy back fights. We can have gags when we're just sailing between islands. But this is a war against a Yonko. All right? We've had enough gags. We had enough fun. We had the gags early on in the rooftop fight where Big Mom sent an attack and all the three captains stood and said whoever moves first is a chicken. Like, we've had that. Enough is enough. There was no reason to turn to Looney Tunes, so there already wasn't any tension or stakes in the arc, so that completely was the final nail in the coffin, and I hated that. I didn't even like how he transformed into Gear 5. If you remember correctly, he was getting his ass whooped by Kaido on the roof, and Kaido had completely defeated him, and in that chapter, in the final panel, Luffy started to melt. I would have absolutely loved if Oda had just left that panel of Luffy melting out of the chapter and just left him completely defeated, at least for another chapter, and then have Kaido kind of like go on a rampage or something, because at that point, stakes and tension would be back on the arc, would be back inside the arc, because Law and Kid were cooked from what they did on the rooftop and from fighting Big Mom. Zoro was cooked from what he did on the rooftop and from fighting King. So our biggest fighters were basically out of commission. I would have been like, okay, we don't have anyone else left on the island to stand with the Kaido. What do we do? And at that point, it's like, okay, is Kaido gonna go on a rampage and kill some people before Luffy can get back up? Like, that would have at least brought a little bit of tension back towards the end of the arc at least, but we didn't get that. And so that was another issue I had. Not once did I fear for anybody's life. Not once did I have any doubt that the raid would fail. My final issue with this arc is the way Zoro was handled. Now I know people are going to be like, oh, well, Luffy's the main character. It's always been Luffy-centric. What do you expect? He wants to be the Pirate King. He has to be the uncle, blah, 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 blah. Bada boom, bada, yada, yada, yada. Listen, I understand that the manga is always going to be Luffy-centric, but I had faith in Oda that in the land of samurai, the swordsman who wants to become the greatest swordsman of all time would have took precedence and would have actually had more of an impact in the arc than he did. Wano has been set up from Zoro since Thriller Bark when he first met Ryuma. This is a land of samurai. Zoro is a swordsman. This was supposed to be his character arc. People always used to say Zoro is a boring character. He's one-dimensional. He's just badass, yada, 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 yada. I always disagreed with those people. I said there's more to Zoro's character. However, since the time skip, that has been proven true. Zoro is one-dimensional and he has no character to him. He has had no character growth or no character development the entirety of post-time skip other than power-ups. And that wasn't the case pre-time skip. And here's the thing. Zoro being one-dimensional and just the cliche badass character, that would have been fine if Oda hadn't introduced plot points to actually expand his character, right? If all he did was have Zoro in the background just to be badass and blah, 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 okay, fine. But don't introduce plot points and just never finish them. For example, when the frog dude and he or girl was talking, it was like, oh, Zoro is a one-eyed swordsman of Ryuma. Huh, how coincidental. he has the spitting image of Ushimaru. Huh. And then we also had the backstory of Yamato, where you had a dude that looked just like Zoro. All these plot points were introduced and went absolutely nowhere. So why would you introduce it? Get us hyped up. Oh my gosh, is Zoro finally gonna get some character development? Is we finally gonna get something about Zoro's past, his history, his lineage, whatever? And then it leads to absolutely nowhere. Then also the introduction of Black Blades. We got nothing. No more explanation of Black Blades. We got, oh, this is the Black Blade. And Zoro's like, huh, is a Black Blade? Is that ... Never talked about again for the rest of the arc. So we got Black Blades plot point brought up, went nowhere. We got the Ryuma, the Ushimaru plot points brought up, went nowhere. The Grim Reaper scene when Zoro literally was staring at the Grim Reaper after he fought King, that was never explained. What was the point of bringing all that up just to skip over it? Also, I don't like how Zoro scarring Kaido was absolutely worthless in the end. After it was done, not once did Kaido reference it again. It had absolutely zero impact on the fight. Not one time did Kaido say, the scar is acting up that Zoro gave me. No. Not one time did Kaido see the scar and reference it and think about Odin. No. The scar was absolutely useless. It was pointless. Zoro didn't even bring him to his knees. Looking back on it, that moment was trash. The only way that moment would have been great would have been if Zoro got back up on the roof, which I thought was going to happen, and actually redeemed himself. But no, that's not what happened. So we had another yet predictable arc. I have always had faith in Oda that he would not pull a Kishimoto and mess up the final arc, or pull a, what's the guy's name of who does Attack on Titan? I forgot his name, but the author of Attack on Titan, where he fumbled the ending. I always held Oda in high regard, and I said, Oda doesn't even have to have a great ending. He can just have it be mid, and it'll be fine. But after Oda fumbled the biggest arc of One Piece in such a terrible fashion, I no longer have faith that the final arc is going to be good. I do not have faith that Oda won't fumble the arcs coming. Am I excited about the rest of One Piece? No, I'm not. This arc completely killed my expectations and excitement for the coming arcs. I'm still going to read One Piece, of course, because I invested 1,000+ chapters into it. But as for actually looking forward to and having high expectations, I don't. I'm going to give Wano a 4 out of 10. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Peace.